my presentation will be an insight from the business or film sales company point of view on the VR, how we see it. Before I start, can I ask you how many of you tried VR already? Okay, 50%. Okay, do you hear me? Everybody hears me? Good. So I'll be not original. I actually will start my presentation from my very first time of VR too, as Sergio did, and I think many of you told your stories how it was for you for the very first time in VR. So actually for me it started in 2014 when I moved to Paris to work for Cross Video Days, which is a digital content market. In 2014 we were selecting projects across the world on different formats, web series, I don't know, interactive transmedia projects, also VR. In 2014, we only had 3 projects in VR at that moment out of 60, and I had to try one of them in Oculus headset, and it was the project called Tista Fresh. Before that event, I had not big clue about the VR, never tried it before, didn't read it much about it. Before knowing much about it or knowing the story well, I put the Oculus headset, and suddenly I'm in the shoes of this person. I hope you can see it. It's actually a snowboarder. I put the Oculus headset, and I suddenly slide pretty much 100 kilometers per hour fast, steep down the hill. I don't really know what's happening because I'm not a snowboarder, I'm not a big sportsman, but the experience was wow, believe me. So what happened actually? It was, I had to be in the shoes of this amazing woman called Geraldine Fasnacht. She's Swiss, and she is 11 times international free ride champion. Other than that, she is also how do you say, windsuit glider. So she is extreme sport professional. In this documentary project, Taste of Risk, I had to be in her shoes and be able to move like her on a mountain. It was just amazing. Of course, you know, in 2014, technology was not yet developed that fast. For the first time trying this and moving so fast, after 5 minutes of trying that, I wanted to puke. It was an experience of many of us, but well, still I stayed curious, and I will always remember her and being the feeling being in her shoes. A few months later, there is another badass woman called Harley Quinn from Suicide Squad. So she is a badass girlfriend of Joker, and imagine what? You can meet her or be her in virtual reality. What can it be better for a geek of movies like me? Well, bear with me, and there are many more projects to come in virtual reality in recent years. So Alien, I'm sorry, the slides are very, very dark, but the 2 guys actually behind the 2 guys, it's the scary alien shape. So the movie Alien have also created its extension in virtual reality. Avatar 2, how is it? What's his name? John Wick 2, Jurassic World, Star Wars also. The Martian, and Mummy. You would think that, oh, okay, it's a blockbusters, they have different budgets, all coming from United States. Well, it's true, but this is how the best things are happening, where there is money. Not only films, but also TV series have created their VR extensions. Sergio told that Westworld, you could actually enter in the virtual reality of Westworld. Or Mr. Robot, they created a public event with headsets for their fans. And also virtual reality has been in TV series Back to the Future, long time ago. But still, it's not such a new phenomenon. Again, you would say, still America, blockbuster movies or TV series, but not just that. You would probably know these 3 awesome guys. So You can barely see it, sorry. So one of them is Alexandru Inaritu, who presented his first virtual reality film in Cannes, official selection out of competition. So you see also the, let's say, independent or art house directors, the ones of the classical and, I don't know, the best movies ever creators, they also are curious and moving towards this format. So I hope by now you are a little bit more a believer like me, considering these examples. To back up my story, I want to present little statistics. So you would think virtual reality is for tourism, for games, but some insights say that actually video and movies is the second biggest market for virtual reality in 2016, with 67% of consumers interested in that format. Games, however, if you see, it's 61, so it's much further away. Further than that, actually, the promises for film and video market is growing. I can tell you that in the projections made by some analysts, video should overtake game in current years, but by 2021, it will be one and a time much bigger market than gaming, which now it's pretty much opposite. Okay, this is another statistics which indicates actually what is the technology that we will use for the future for virtual reality, whether it would be for games, videos, or movies. And the predictions say that social VR, well, not social, mobile VR, so telephone-based VR headsets will be increasing significantly and overcoming PC or other formats. So coming back to me, giving you some positive vibes about film, about where the VR market is growing, I want to say that I work for the company Wide. We actually are a traditional film sales agent. The company was founded in 20 years ago, imagine that. Every year we are representing around 20 new titles. Feature films, both fiction and documentaries. It's often, our lineup is made out often of the titles, independent, coming from smaller countries, sometimes theme-oriented, LGBT, erotic content, art house very much also first-time directors. Well, the company currently employs 30 people. We have an independent documentary branch, so it's outside that. But in Wide as a mother company, we also have separate departments, let's say, and we also do film distribution in France. We work on European projects, co-productions, and now from 2016-17 we have a department dedicated to VR. Talking about European projects, I want to very briefly tell you that the company has developed this project that is actually a support platform for first and second time directors. It is called Ion Films, and we have a catalog just there, just because the project has been long supported by Creative Europe. I thought it's a good moment to mention it, and if you have a first or second feature film, it could be you could profit from this project definitely, and if you're interested, I can speak with you later about it. Well, back to virtual reality and Wide. To tell you a little bit more what kind of company we are, I tried to pick up a few Spanish titles. Maybe it's not the best representatives of our lineup, but maybe these are the films that you may know. So The Writer's Barrow, Hidden Away, Shepherd, these are fiction films, and Bolingo, Kitchen at the End of the World, and Bayari. These all films have traveled very, very well in the film festivals. And we have actually very successfully collaborated with Atlantida Film Festival online and offline during the years with not necessarily our Spanish titles, but many titles we have. I didn't mention before, but currently we count around 500 fiction films in our catalog and 300 documentaries. So this is our background. This you probably don't see at all, but here I wanted to illustrate film value chain and indicate where is the film sales company take place, where do we play our game, and I wonder if there is a lot of people who don't know this, and I would need to explore it. How many of you are not very sure what film sales company does? Not sure. Just one. Okay, so very briefly, we are actually stepping up in at the end of production. Most probably, we buy the film with MG, minimum guarantee, and we actually are responsible for international distribution of this film. Let's say worldwide, except if the producer keeps the rights for their home or co-production countries. So we work with festivals, traditional theatrical distributors, online platforms to distribute your film. As we do it for many films, we have a very good network of the professionals worldwide across the different markets, and that's how it's easy for us to do this business. Of course, it's not for free. We take a little percentage, but I think it takes off from your shoulder a very big work of distribution and proposing the film. So a lot of hard work that we do for you, and maybe hopefully more successfully. So this is the model that how the company works, and actually we tried to put this model on the VR too. So here you can see it, cannot see it very well, but this is my colleague Paul. Paul, me, and our director Loïc Magneron, we are free working on the VR part of the company, and how it all happened actually. As I think we are, at least in Europe, we are the first sales agent that moved towards VR. We acquired a little lineup for the first time in Berlinale 2017. We did our first sales in Berlinale, so I think it was very successful launch. At that point, we had free virtual reality films, and when I mean films, it's actually really narrative VR experience that you can call films. So not something gaming experience by itself, but it's actually narrative storytelling. In Cannes, we presented 8 films, and so our lineup is slowly but growing. Among our titles, and maybe you have heard because these films have traveled, it's Oh Dear, very successful Sergeant James, new film, and the only documentary that we have, it's Notes to My Father, that was coming to us after South by Southwest. Then we have co-production with Arte 360, it's a concert of Mozart, and then we have also genre films in VR, so it's that you can call it. So it's the Seventh Night, and what else? And Come Closer. I have all the films with me and I have a headset, so if you want to watch it, I can definitely prompt you to do it. I'll be here today full day and tomorrow half day. Most of the films are really short, around 5-6 minutes. The only one over a little bit longer, it's Notes to My Father, documentary one, it's 11 minutes, so it doesn't take much time, and it's beautiful. So this is our current lineup. So how do we work? How do we apply our business model and distribution model for the VR films? So we do it via film festivals, traditional festivals like the ones that have nothing to do originally with, let's say, new media, but the ones that are now got curious and doing showcase. So we are working with them. We have a lot of requests from our traditional partners that bought from us documentaries or fiction now to propose a VR lineup. Also, a new kind of type of partners is dedicated to new media festivals. Second group of our partners that we work, it's VR equipped venues, whether it would be cinema arcades like IMAX or MK2 in Paris, or pop-up cinemas like maybe you have heard, it's Diversion Cinema, Hervé, and several others. They're quite a few, at least in France. They actually are interesting as they know, not only as a pop-up cinema, they are not only able to do the screenings in Paris or France, they can travel and do this professional setup of VR screening anywhere in the world. And of course, digital platforms. So free, again, very similar as for our traditional lineup. For the VR lineup, we work with the same group of partners too. And outside the distribution, we actually are considering to do VR co-productions. For the 8 films that I was telling you before, presented you before, we have not done it this year, but this is something that we are looking to do in future. So we want to step in earlier in the project to bring funds to develop or produce and film the content, or post-production, and yeah, later sell it. It's not that new for us in the sense that we have done this with the feature films. And by being based in France, we actually think that we have good access to public funding, but maybe not necessarily it would be that. It could be a private investment. Again, how do we work with the films that we acquire? We haven't yet set our practice what we would do, which we have as a practice for feature films. For VR films, sometimes we work with MGs, sometimes we work with the percentage share. It actually depends on the content, on how we negotiate with the partners, and how do we believe what are the earnings coming out of it. So both are possible. Okay, so what I wanted to actually tell you, this goes a little bit outside our common day experience, but to present you what's out there in the VR for the content creator, for the film content creator, right? So location-based VR distribution, I think for the moment we could group them in VR arcades. So something that I was telling you, Sony IMAX, they actually this year they just opened the second VR screen in United States, and they're planning to expand the network rapidly. MK2 has a fully working VR arcade in Paris, and I think they are planning to expand. It is an interesting partner to consider, because as they are not only an exhibitor, but they are international sales and distributor, both for feature films and VR. So except for the exhibitor model, they are working pretty much like us. But they can also offer you a venue where you can screen your films. And there are other arcades, Viveland by HTC in Taipei, Awesome Rocket Ship, and simulators. What's important about these VR arcades is that they take a lot of different content. So it could be films, They actually, for example, MK2, they bought some films from us, but on the side of that, they are offering interactive and gamified experience. So it's not necessarily purely dedicated to the film content in VR. Then we have a very different type of players, let's say dark rides, so theme parks, theme entertainment simulators, or guest ride cars, which is, well, for us, it's nothing to do with our business, but this is another type of location-based VR distribution channel. And the third group would be VR DOMs, so venues or theater-based or theater experience maybe based venues again. So I mentioned about them before, like one of the biggest in France is the Version Cinema. They don't have a physical venue, but they have all the equipment necessary to do a pop-up cinema anywhere in the world. Outside of that, they actually became also a distributor of the content. So not only they offer exhibition of the content, but distribution as well. And the last VR DOM, it's immersive experiences, like, for example, vortex immersion. Okay, another thing, I tried to present you something I know and something partners that we work here. We work. Here there is a network called VR Niche that they are offering information about VR locations and VR projects. I deliberately wanted to make this photo because it shows how many there is, and this is only VR locations, not just VR projects. So you're free as Cara, for example, having a shop and workshop, or also showing VR content in Copenhagen, they can actually subscribe themselves to locate themselves in this map. As a project creator, you can actually subscribe and locate your project in this map too. And if you think that it's a beginning, look, it's very intense beginning. And if you see, actually there is Mallorca is also marked here. So I don't know who of you have done this already, but apparently things are happening here too. So it's not only in the capitals and big leader markets. Okay, so another group of distributors that I was telling you, it's digital platforms. A lot of traditional broadcasters, publishers actually moved in the recent years to distribute VR. And if you see, it's your telecommunication company Orange, Arte 360, Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, Sky VR, Milk VR, or now Google Play, TF1, National Geographic, Discovery, PBS, the New York Times. The new players that have, let's say, are arriving purely dedicated to VR, or arriving newly as purely dedicated to VR and not with another business strategy before, but emerging and growing. It's within Verizon, AT&T, QIY. This is actually an interesting platform in China, and something to check out, because apparently China is the biggest VR market now. And then you have Little Star or Jaunt. By giving this list, I promise you I don't give you the final list, because it's impossible to give, and the things are changing day by day. But I think these are, well, at least a group of major players in here. They are looking for your content, and many of them, they are actually are able to support your content. Okay, speaking about distribution, I also wanted to come back to Inaritu film, because it's another type of distribution model. The film was launched, well, the project was launched in Cannes official selection out of competition, very traditional film launch in general. Yet it's interactive, subject is refugees. Okay, yet the distribution model that they have chosen is actually via museums. So right after Cannes, the project went to Prada Foundation in Milan. I think right now it's going to Los Angeles County Museum of Art. And for the future, they are considering other museums as their distribution platforms. So by this, what I want to tell you that traditional distribution platforms for films can be applicable for VR, which I tried to illustrate before, but also new distribution platforms and ways are emerging. Okay, by this chart, I just wanted to give you a little landscape of VR and RV market in Europe. What it is actually interesting, you can find it easily on internet, but what it is, it's out of many different, let's say, clusters based on technology, health, education, or whatever, that are now interested in VR and started to work in VR. The central bubble, actually, the big one, is dedicated to VR content platforms and agencies, so production and distribution platforms. This is something to look in. Most probably there are more companies that I haven't listed in my list before, because I don't know them that well. But one thing to understand, that content is actually big in VR, in production and distribution both. This is another type of chart made by the VR Fund, and again, European VR industry landscape. It's a pity that you definitely cannot see it well, but I like it a little bit more because it separates the production companies, the leading production companies, something to see and to follow their projects, because there are amazing content being made in VR now, and also the platforms for distributing content, as well as other type of not a film type of content in VR. Okay, many of you are wondering, okay, VR, maybe you can try, but who can invest it? Because the budgets of the production of the VR films is minimum twice as big as any other, and most probably even more if you want to make something outstanding. So what I wanted to tell you, that actually there is already some funding in VR, and there are different groups how you can fund it. So I would really encourage you to look in the national funds, which supports film in development, production. Maybe there are some funds dedicated to startups, but at this very early stage of VR market, it could be actually allocated to VR content and tax incentives schemes. What happened actually with certain kind of institutions like film centers or unifronts in France is by their complicated, let's say, support schemes. What they did, they have not invented another type of support scheme for VR content, but what they treat now VR projects as short films. So everything what is applicable for short film, it could be applicable for VR projects. So support for development, support for production, maybe also for distribution. Not all the countries are progressive, let's say, but some of them are, and you would not believe Estonia already has this. So I mean, why not Spain? I haven't checked, however, your national laws, but this is something to do, or this is something to lobby for, actually. Another group of source of funding, it's actually international funds, and as we are here hosted by Creative Europe Media, so media do support the development of the film projects, and actually it can be any kind of project, linear, interactive, VR, as you want, fiction or documentary, or short or animation. So this is also something to look into. Another group of sources of funding, it could be pre-sales distributors or exhibitors. So like, for example, like us, a sales company, a distributor company, we can do pre-sales for you and kind of help you to finish your project. But not only that. For example, IMX recently announced their development fund that actually they allocate for the projects that will give them exclusivity. So IMAX would fund the projects that once they are finished will be exclusively distributed for certain kind of period of time in the IMAX screens. After that, you can sell to anywhere. Another source of funding to look into is brands, of course, tech companies, and for tech companies, I want to mention, I haven't mentioned it here, it's like joint Nokia, Nvidia, or AMD. They have all announced that they are funding VR content. And the last one, an interesting one, is NGOs. So talking about NGOs, so there is this project called VR for Impact, and actually what it is a collaboration between United Nations and HTC Vive with a fund of $10 million to support documentaries in VR. Why suddenly United Nations got interested in virtual reality? Actually, one of the recent social campaigns in VR has produced 7 times better results than their average traditional campaign, let's say linear or not linear, but across the other mediums. So 7 times more effective campaigns. Of course, they want to invest in VR. And to prove you this is a photo of Mr. Ban Ki-moon, UN Secretary in General and Executive Director. This is a personal interest that you can see, right? Okay, this is something you cannot see, again, but it's actually a very recent chart of who are the biggest investors in the VR. And in the VR, in this sense, it could be across technology sector, content, gaming, I don't know, health, education, whatever. What I wanted to show you, it's actually the 4th column, so it's really one of the highest still. It's Sky. It's a broadcaster, right? It's one of the biggest investor in the VR. Not only that, there is HTC towards the end, so it's a technology company, and there are actually other private funds or private companies that I'm not aware, but I was really surprised, and this is what I wanted to show you, that actually broadcasting company is one of the leader investor in the VR. Okay, so here, if you can see this beautiful creature, his name is Henry. He won Emmy, and I actually met him twice. I went to this festival last year in November in Paris, and there were many installations of the VR, and we were queuing in a queue to see something. My friend was telling, you have to see Henry. Henry is something amazing. Okay, so I queue in a queue. It's long, it's a little bit boring, and next to the person that is trying, Henry, I can see a little screen that shows what the person is seeing in his headset. And my friend left me, so I was alone in the queue. What do? I watched the little screen because this is the only thing that is moving, and so I saw the movie with Henry in the very little screen, and I thought, no, do I have to watch it in virtual reality? The project before I saw was this amazing badass woman that she can snowboard like from the cliff. Okay, well, as my turn comes, I am in the Henry's living room, and he is celebrating his birthday. And what do you think? I fell in love with him, and this is what it is, and why I want to tell you that pretty much the same as with my first experience in VR. VR actually gives you empathy. It brings you so much closer to the main character. And if I was not impressed by Henry when he was small creature in a small screen, I was really impressed when he was really next to me and he was waiting for his friends to come to his birthday. Anyway, this slide is not about him, but I still wanted to tell you the story. It's actually another takeaway about VR market in Europe. And here I listed several things that you might be interested in. So there are several trainings in Europe called If Lab, Cartoon 360, Creators Lab. These are trainings that can actually help you to develop your VR projects into something incredible. There are people, experts that can develop your stories, help you to edit, will tell you everything about technical aspects to do it. I'm sure there is more, but actually these are the ones that I came across. And this is something for you to check. There is a lot of markets dedicated to VR projects, and in many cases the markets are at the project development stage. So if you have an idea, you prepared your pitch, you prepared your treatment, you have some visual imagination, how do you want your project to be, definitely go there. You'll meet great professionals, you meet your co-producers, you meet funders that I haven't mentioned here, maybe you haven't heard before, but the market is growing, and this is something to check definitely. So it's CPH Lab and Forum, Cross Video Days. By the way, speaking about Cross Video Days, remember? When I worked there, there was free VR projects actually in 2015 out of 60 projects selected. For its next edition in 2017, they are expecting 30, so half of the projects to be purely VR. So other, let's say, digital formats of the content actually are pushed away by VR by major increase. Okay, other things, other markets, Geneva Digital Market, ITFA Doc Lab, or ITFA Doc, Laval. This is actually a very interesting market in the middle of nowhere in France, purely dedicated to virtual reality, and from this year on also to VR content. Marché du Film with its developed Corner Next, Sheffield Doc Fest, Venice Gap Financing with amazing person to follow, Michel Riec, ahead, and VR Days Europe based in Belgium, or World VR Forum. Some of these events have been established markets for, let's say, traditional formats, whether it's documentary or feature or whatever, but there are many events coming up on a large scale, purely dedicated to VR, and I think they are divided half-half. Another thing to look into, festivals, let's say the ones that actually do have a selection of VR, not a VR showcase where you can submit your film at it full screen, whatever, because there is no yet enough content to do the selection process, yeah? So festivals that are serious in their programmation, some of them already have a competition and awards already established for VR films, CPH Docs, Les Arcs, Nouveau Cinéma, Paris Virtual, Sheffield Doc Fest, Sundance, South by Southwest, Tribeca, and Tous Écrans. Of course, it's not an exhaustive list, but I think this is something, a startup that you can look into. Okay, so we spoke about many things of the VR business, let's say, and I wanted to, before wrapping up, I wanted to speak a little bit about VR audience. And here, this is the company that made a research what is actually the audience of the VR. And you have most of the audience is qualified as Generation Z, then you have millennials, Generation X, baby boomers, whatever. I'm not sure I fall into any of these, but maybe I am. How do you see? To complement this, I actually wanted to show you this picture. If you are a content geek like me, you may recognize. This is William H. Macy from TV series Macy, but he, for a TV series called Shameless, but he have made beautiful and many other leading roles in film, but he is not a baby boomer, most probably, right? So he is the generation you would think that maybe they are not yet interested in VR. Well, he is. And not only him, this lovely gentleman here is Sir David Attenborough, British documentary maker for TV. This person have been making documentaries, let's say, for BBC for all his life. Now he's interested and he is working on the VR project. So VR is not for young generation only, it's for everybody who is curious. And to actually sum up, not in a short way, but with a lot of, let's say, open-end questions, I prepared 2 slides of future promises. I wanted to start future promises with something that this amazing person called Michel Riac from Submarine in the Netherlands have been telling in Berlin this year. It's actually, he was saying that VR now is experiencing the same thing what cinema was experiencing at this very beginning. Imagine the first Lumiere movies when the train came to the screen. It was a wow effect. The cinema, in the very beginning, the cinema had to make an impression to shock people, I don't know, to burst them. But when it's settled right now, when it is an established kind of market and established content, we know the rules of storytelling, we break them, but there is a lot of things that have been tried. Cinema is different now, right? So most probably this will happen to VR too. What will happen in future and what needs to be happening is we need to discuss and to settle business models, distribution models, ethical rules, because actually for all the players that they are playing this game at this point, we make up as we go. I mean, also with us as a sales company that sell VR films, I told you, we sometimes offer MG, we sometimes offer a percentage. We don't know if traditional film model can work on VR films, so we try, and then we'll see what will happen. The market, we think, moves so fast that most probably in a year we would have different arguments and different kind of experience to tell you. But this is something to look into. Another thing and big issue and discussion is about VR isolation and addiction. But on the contrary, other people actually predict that VR storytelling in the future might be designed to be shared and experienced together, while so then it will have its momentum. And actually today we had a very short conversation during the coffee break that I can see that it is potential. Actually, people with the headset not necessarily do feel isolated. In the same market in the middle of nowhere in Laval in France that I was telling you, I actually experienced 2 days showing our films for non-professional audience. A non-professional audience in that sense, I mean local people from a small town in France. So very average people, definitely not technology or content fans, but average audience. And what do you think? So I have 2 boys that waited in a queue, so they asked to put the same film. So I put them 2 headsets, the same film, and they're around 10, and they're watching the film in their own headsets. There is sound and everything, so most probably they should feel that they are in their isolated universe, but what they do, they actually comment to each other of what they are seeing, making jokes about what they are seeing to another, and having a talk. They don't see each other in the virtual reality being that there is somebody else. There is their own experience, but they know that they're with somebody, with a friend next to them, and that they're seeing the same things. And actually, as kids, they were talking. Adults were, of course, not the same thing, but this was a very interesting insight, let's say, that I wanted to share with you. Another thing with the Facebook example, it's also a question whether VR will be a next generation entertainment device or social device, whether will be more towards the cinema or Skype, or will it will be both coexisting. And yeah, the last slide of future promises is actually people are predicting that VR, with the technology being more advanced, easier accessible, and less expensive, hopefully the length is coming to feature length, and TV series is emerging in VR. Goggles will become accessible in price, VR and AR glasses much more simple. Actually, I don't know if anybody of you have seen, but Dior already produced their own VR headset. It's not really beautiful, definitely not more simple, but considering that brands, they see it, let's say, a business niche to move into. So most probably we'll have something more beautiful on the next try of Dior than current Google Cardboard, let's say. VR storytelling will be better. I mean, as I am positive and optimistic about VR, we have to admit that there is a lot of crap content currently in the market, and okay, this is the try, this is how we learn, and this is how we move forward, but the market cannot grow unless we have something really beautiful to show. Another thing, what we see it's coming, it's actually interactive and multifaceted storytelling in VR. So what Sergio was telling with eye tracking, I mean, maybe like very soon in the future, and there is the technology already there, and by companies Virtelio, Vonda VR, Lucid Cinema, InstaVR, VR 360, that they actually can give you the experience different for me, different for Olympia, because I decide to follow this character, or somebody else decides to follow that character, or somebody is interested in what's happening behind. So, I mean, if you are aware of recent phenomena of transmedia or interactive storytelling, this is what will be adopted in VR, and technology is already there, and it gives you amazing opportunities to tell either different stories, to tell expanded stories, to tell shorter stories, many things. Another thing is sign languages or a sign interface will become a core operation model. So it's not by pressing the button, clicking the controller, but by eye tracking certain kind of signs and symbols that will develop the system of. This would be the control that we'll use for the VR, similar like what HoloLens is now doing. Distribution market will definitely settle. We'll speak about editorialization, because now many let's say exhibitors, we speak again about the VR arcades like IMAX or MK2, because they're closer to cinema experience, that they actually take documentaries, they take blockbusters, they take art house type of projects, they take games. There's no actual editorialization because there is not a lot of content to choose from, and this is what will happen in future, definitely, and more distribution platforms and will be developed and segregated, and hopefully real democratization of production tools, so they would be accessible, cheaper, and hopefully make our life easier and less scary. And finally, just the last slide to support the thing about intuitive kind of control of a content in VR, let's say. So currently we are using the point, the click, the type. We are on the verge towards the touch, swipe, or talk. But the next step and the next ways we'll how to say interact with content, it will be gesture, moves, and eye gaze with the eye tracking that was mentioned before. And very deep in future, I don't know if you can see this. This is a Star Wars slide, and in the center there is the hologram of Princess Leia. So actually this is another positive and deep in future note for you. It's that VR is new, but actually there are another type of content formats coming. So mixed realities, holograms, they'll come like this. And I think I would suggest everybody to dream or get ready about it and be passionate, hopefully. So may the force be with you, and muchas gracias.